this is my review of Sonic X. Okay, so things reach their climax in this episode. So it starts off with basically everybody aboard the air carrier where they need to be. So Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails all arrive at the same time, and Dr. Eggman immediately has Deco and Boko open fire on them with the missiles, which all miss because it's Sonic, and Sonic is just too fast for the missiles, and it causes one of the missiles to open a hole in the hull of the egg carrier, which Knuckles is able to climb through so he can go look for the rest of the Master Emeralds, and leaves Tails and Sonic to go find Dr. Eggman and deal with him. And sure enough, they do exactly that and proceed to go to the bridge. But Dr. Eggman calls Gamma up and gets ready to have him deal with Sonic when he shows up. Meanwhile, Amy has successfully fled the egg carrier and is about to escape when Deco and Boko corner her and Dr. Eggman stops behind her. And she pulls out her hammer to deal with them, but then Sonic shows up, revealing to Amy that he came to rescue her. And she's overwhelmed with tears, but then proves that she doesn't need his help and easily defeats Deco, Boko, and Dr. Eggman by herself. And in the process smacks the wall that Sonic and Tails are standing on, which causes them to fall on top of Dr. Eggman. But as Dr. Eggman recoups, he has Deco snatch Lily from Amy's arms, and Dr. Eggman reveals that there is indeed a Chaos Emerald in Lily's little necklace thing, and reveals that there is indeed another Chaos Emerald in her necklace. And as he reveals that, Gamma comes outside. And Dr. Eggman basically orders him to fight Sonic and get rid of him. And he does, despite Amy's protests for both of them to stop. The two do start fighting, which causes some significant damage to the egg carrier in the process. But in any case, Sonic eventually defeats Gamma and proceeds to finish him off. But Amy intervenes, revealing that Gamma actually saved her from captivity, and Sonic decides to back down. However, as I mentioned, the fight between Sonic and Gamma actually caused some much needed damage to the egg carrier, which causes it to go down. And Tails notes that it'll crash in a matter of minutes, and they should probably get off of it. Sonic proceeds to chase after Dr. Eggman and grabs a hold of his little egg flyer thing. And tells him that he'll see him on the ground on the way down. Meanwhile, also he tells Tails that he needs to actually get Amy and the rest out to safety. And Tails isn't entirely sure what to do since Tails is having he's having a bit of a confidence issue. It starts cropping up a little bit in this episode, but notably he's starting to take a bit more of a leadership role, but he's also second guessing himself, and he's not entirely sure how to act. But he does do what Sonic says, because Sonic usually tells him what to do and that he can handle it. Meanwhile, Amy is cuddling Gamma and begs for him to wake up, which he eventually does, and then immediately asks why she saved him, and she responds that she was just repaying the favor, and then she Tails and Lily all escape, and presumably Gamma leaves as well. We never actually see him leave, but it's implied that he left. Meanwhile, Knuckles is still looking for the Chaos Emerald for the last piece of the Master Emerald, and he eventually finds it. But as he finds it, he sees yet another vision. This time of Tikal lying face down in front of the Master Emerald shrine. And when he approaches her, she actually sees him and responds that she wasn't able to stop her father, and hopes that he'll be able to get away. But it's implied that she is and isn't talking to Knuckles. But eventually she sees something in the Master Emerald and goes to see it, but as Knuckles tries to approach, he's suddenly pulled out of the vision and begins to wonder why he's having these visions in the first place. Meanwhile, Chris and Big have located Froggy, which is in this little terrarium thing. Or at least it's part cage, part terrarium. I'm not entirely sure what it's supposed to be, but it's like a jar. It's a jar with Froggy in it. That's as far as I know. And they proceed to go and try and rescue Froggy, but then the explosions, the aforementioned fight with Sonic and Gamma happened, and Big Man starts panicking because he thinks that they're not going to be able to get Froggy outside in time. But eventually he calms down after taking a drink from one of the nearby vending machines that Dr. Eggman apparently just has on the egg carrier. I'm not entirely sure why, but eventually he calms down, and using a combination of by using his fishing pole and having Chris climb on the fishing pole, they're able to actually get Froggy and escape with it. But they run face first into Dr. Eggman with Chaos in tow, and Eggman points out to Chaos that Froggy seems to have a bit of an unusual tail and asks it to basically go fetch. And indeed it does. It gives chase after Big and Chris, and eventually they drop Froggy, and he lands in the hands of Dr. Eggman, who proceeds to choke the Chaos Emerald out of Froggy. And now that he has the Chaos Emeralds from both Lily's necklace and Froggy, he's now able to upgrade Chaos into Chaos 6, which is basically its most powerful form-ish. To date, it's the most powerful form in the show, but we haven't seen its final form yet. But we'll get to that. But in any case, Dr. Eggman uses his carrier to drop Froggy on top of Chaos, and it gets absorbed into Chaos. And Chris and Big try to rescue Froggy from Chaos, but get absorbed into it as well. At which point Sonic shows up, realizes that Chris is trapped inside Chaos, and proceeds to try and fight it. But quickly realizes that on his own, he's not able to actually go and deal with Chaos. And fortunately, he doesn't have to, because at that exact moment, Knuckles shows up and and the two try to work out how to get to its weak point. And eventually, they realize the weak point is in fact its brain. So they proceed to do a team attack. Knuckles uses the Shell Claws to scrape away some of Chaos's energy and enable Sonic to actually get to the brain. And it works, and Chaos reverts to its Chaos Zero form and drops all the Chaos Emeralds it had absorbed up to that point, and then disappears. And sure enough, Eggman is very upset by this. But in case Knuckles begins to round up the rest of the Chaos Emeralds and picks them up and proceeds to try and figure out a way off, while Sonic jumps overboard and proceeds to chase after Eggman again. Eventually Sonic lands in front of some sort of monument. I'm not entirely sure what it is. I remember something about that from Sonic Adventure, but I'm not entirely sure. But in any case, he jumps overboard after defeating the Chaos and reverting it back to Chaos Zero. And Knuckles and Chris realize that they can get home with using the X Tornado, until they realize that Big had actually gotten in the cockpit a long time ago and it was already fumbling with the controls. And since he doesn't quite know how to fly, he kind of crashes into them and they all go flying overboard. Meanwhile, Amy begins to question whether or not Sonic is okay, because she never actually saw him leave. She was picked up by Tails and then left immediately after, so she has no idea. And Lily's trying to comfort her. Actually reveals that her locket does indeed hold a picture of her and her family, and Amy decides that as long as she's basically in a sentimental mood, she might as well help Lily find her family, and realizes that they're most likely back on board the A carrier and proceeds to leave with Lily in tow. And also now that everybody's back at the house and Eggman needs a last-ditch effort since Chaos is no longer around, he actually tricks Jerome, if you remember the president's former aide. Yeah, he tricks him into accidentally activating a ready-to-make missile, which just kind of expands and then crashes into an overpass nearby. And Tails sees this whole thing, this whole display play out on the TV, and immediately leaves to go defuse the situation. He sees, and sure enough, Dr. Eggman, through one of Bokun's little monitors, tells everybody that it's going to explode in exactly 2 minutes, and then orders Bokun to start counting, which Bokun notably isn't very happy with, but he does it anyway because he has to. And Tails isn't entirely sure how to handle the situation, but starts to remember what Sonic would have told him about how to actually deal with this issue, and decides, you know what, I need to stop relying on Sonic so much, and proceeds to disarm the missile. And much to Bokun's mixed reactions and everybody else's very adamant praise. So yeah, Tails basically steps up and does something heroic for the first time, and it's a big deal because Tails doesn't normally do heroic things by himself, and he's happy about that. But also as one last little shot, the X tornado crashes near Mystic's ruin, and Tails and Chris, Big, and Knuckles all fall out of it, and Knuckles leaves to go find Angel Island so he can put the last piece of the Master Emerald back in place while also transporting the Chaos Emeralds that he's found, but he realizes that he's missing one more and also needs to look for that as well. And Chris and Big contemplate what they're supposed to do now, and when the X tornado falls out of the tree it crashed into, and proceeds to dig up a Chaos Emerald, and Chris realizes that's the 7th one, and proceeds to pick it up and chase after Knuckles with it and tell him that he found it. And Big, realizing that he really serves no more narrative purpose, and realizing that his desire to save Froggy has been fulfilled, proceeds to go home with Froggy in tow. So, although he's a little bit sad that he doesn't get to say goodbye to Chris. So yeah, basically this episode is a big climactic thing. It's a lot of major plot points coincide at the same time. Namely, they finally defeat Chaos and revert it back to its form and get all the Chaos Emeralds back. Gamma realizes that he doesn't need to serve under Eggman anymore, and then leaves to go pursue his own purpose. Big saves Froggy. Amy succeeds in escaping the egg carrier and proceeds to find a new purpose by helping Lily. Tails does his first heroic moment, and Knuckles has all of the pieces of the Master Emeralds and 6 of the Chaos Emeralds, with Chris having the 7th one. So yeah, overall everything is mostly wrapped up in a nice little bow. But there is a couple of other things that are still going to come up later because for reasons that should be obvious as you played Sonic Adventure, that isn't how the game actually ends with everything being wrapped up. There is in fact one last little plot twist that we're gonna need to address, and everybody who plays Sonic Adventure or any of the other games that Chaos has showed up in, you know exactly what's going to happen next. So yeah, that's my review of Sonic X. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks that are my way of saying thanks, so be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!